Hi there everyone, Laurel here, and welcome to the very first installment of Ready, Set, Stamp with LLC. We are so excited to bring you this collaboration. It's between me, Laura Sturks, and Catherine Pooler. So you get it, LLC? Isn't that funny? Catherine came up with that name. So Ready, Set, Stamp with LLC is going to be a monthly collaboration between the three of us. And what we are going to do is use the same product and create three different looks. None of us know what we're creating until it's done and we're ready to roll with it. So for our first collaboration, we have chosen to use Clearly Besotted. We love Clearly Besotted. We think it's absolutely so much fun, and we chose the best birthday stamp set to work with for our very first collaboration. So welcome, and get ready, set, stamp with LLC. I know I'm a dork. So this is the card that I made today for my video, and I wanted to keep it all one layer on that panel, so that was my challenge to myself. So I'm taking my cardstock and I'm using the Misty for easier stamping for me, and I'm going to lay out the little buddy balloons, the little cute little animal critter balloons onto my card here for placement. This stamp set also comes with a coordinating die, but I did not use it in my card today because I wanted to keep everything one layer on this panel here. So I'm just kind of moving my balloons around, my little critter balloons. They're just so cute. And I'm going to take the lid of the Misty and then press it down, and it's going to pick up my images. And as long as I keep my cardstock nestled in that left-hand corner of the Misty, everything's going to stamp perfectly and right where I want it to be. So I'm inking up my little critters with some Onyx Black VersaFine ink. It's a pigment ink. I love this ink for sentiments as well, and it just gives you a nice crisp impression. And then I'm going to sprinkle on some clear embossing powder. Because this is a pigment ink, it stays wet longer, so you're able to do some really quick heat embossing. And this avoids having to use black embossing powder. Me and black embossing powder don't get along. It winds up everywhere. Maybe it's just me, but I just find this so much easier. So I'm taking my heat gun and I am just heating that up. You can see how quickly it heats because I allowed my heat gun to heat up for a good 15 to 20 seconds before I took it to my paper. So now that I've got all those images nice and heated up and they're kind of on there, I scattered them that way because I needed to make sure I left enough room for the tail for the balloon. So I'm going to use some liquid mask. I am using some rubber cement. Works great as a liquid mask. It's not as stinky as some of those other liquid masks. And I just put it right down onto my craft sheet, and I'm using a very old paintbrush that I have that I use just for liquid mask. I don't use it for anything else because I have found that when you use a paintbrush with liquid mask, the tip of your brush is never the same. So make sure to use one you really don't care about. This is one of my sons. Don't tell him. Shh, but I took it. So I'm applying a thin coat of that rubber cement right over my balloons because I want to mask off the color, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So rubber cement is a thin coat, and it takes almost no time to dry whatsoever as long as you put on a thin coat. Then I'm just going to wipe that up from my mat and just move on to the next step. So I gave it a couple of minutes to dry because it was such a thin coat. Again, no time at all. And now I'm putting a wash of regular clean water onto my cardstock. Now I forgot to mention I am working off of some watercolor cardstock here. Now I'm going to take some Peerless Watercolors. This is what the book looks like when you get it in the mail, but I went ahead and made a little DIY swatch sheet. It's not pretty to look at. I didn't cut the squares evenly or anything like that, but it works for me. I wanted to see what the colors look like. I needed it all in one spot. And I got this idea from Julie Ebersole. It's over on her blog. Hers is much prettier to look at. All her squares are cut evenly, but whatever. It works for me. So I'm going in with just some different colors and I'm adding some of that watercolor. Now, this is why I used a liquid mask instead of a paper mask. Because I am doing watercoloring, if I had used a paper mask, it would seep under the mask and it would get into my critters. So that's why I'm using a liquid mask. Now, this is not perfect, this liquid mask. If you want something that's really perfect, you should use an actual liquid mask like I don't know, there's like masking gum, there's liquid frisket. There are some real, true liquid masks on the market, but I'm just using some rubber cement. I picked it up from the grocery store, and that's what I'm going with. So some is going to seep through that rubber cement because I put such a thin layer on. Had I put on a thicker layer, none of that would have seeped through, but for the sake of the time and the fact that my daughter was sleeping while I was filming this, I put on a thin coat. But it's going to work just fine for me. So now I let everything dry. You can see how muted down those colors as Perfect Pearls get once it dries. And then you just take your finger, you can take an eraser and just push the mask right off. And this is the same technique you would use with any kind of liquid mask. You just kind of buff it away with your finger. And you can see up there in that top, the little panda bear has a little bit of color in it, but that doesn't bother me one bit. So now I'm going to take the balloons, the little tails for the balloons from the stamp set, and I'm going to stamp them onto my little critters here. Got some ink on my hand, but y'all didn't see that. Don't you worry about that. And so I'm just making sure I get those balloons where I want them to be. There are two little tails. One's a little squiggly tail and one's a little straight tail. So I like that she gave you some options there. And I love the sentiments in this set as well. So for that top one, I was scared I was going to go up into my other critter. So I'm just going to take a black Copic marker and just draw a little straight line for my tail there. I thought I got this on camera, but I didn't. But I flicked on some of this irresistible textured spray. I took the stir stick and just flicked some of it onto the cardstock for those black flecks there. And now I'm going around the edge of my paper with a edge distressor. This is one from close to my heart, but to be honest, if you have like a serrated knife, like a steak knife or something like that, that works great for going around the edges of your cardstock to create that distressed look. So that's totally an option for you if you don't have an edge distressor. I know Tim Holtz makes an edge distressor. There are some out there on the market, but I'm a fan of using what you have, so grab a steak knife and go for it. I'm going to take a top folding black card I've trimmed down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I scored it right along the top there. And then I'm going to take my glue glider pro and just add some adhesive to the back of my card. And adhere that right down to the center. And I've got a nice 1/4 inch mat going all around the sides of my card there. Then I needed a Copic marker. I had to go in and give the little critters a pink nose, you know. I wanted to go in and color their little nose. So I just took a Copic, any kind of marker that you have will work for that. You can also give the critters some rosy cheeks if you wanted to. I didn't, but that would have been cute if I had given them little cheeks too. And that's it. That's the card. I like the one layer. I like that we kept the images of the critters, of the little balloon critters, color free. I think that's so cool. It's a super cool technique. So thank you so much for joining us for our first collaboration with Ready, Set, Stamp with LLC. We will be back next month. We will be doing this each month for you all. So next month we already have our stamps lined up and we're already creating projects for our next collaboration. So we hope to see you then. Thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day.